Hey guys, Swifty here, breaking down three underrated wide receivers, one of whom may be getting very close to being overrated. You have to stay tuned to find out which one it is, as I might have my very first hot take on these NFL draft prospects. I'll be breaking down John Metchie III from Alabama, Christian Watson from North Dakota State, and Romeo Doubs from Nevada. First off, we're going to dive into John Metchie, who I have been a fan of for years now. John Metchie III is the 6 foot, 195-pound wide receiver with 4.5 speed from Alabama. He has lightning quick feet, sudden burst and acceleration out of his cuts. He can set up defenders to look silly. He can run the entire route tree, attacking defenses on post and fly routes. He can attack the sideline with curls, comebacks, outs, or corner routes. He can eat over the middle on slants and crossers. He sells his routes like a seasoned vet. He can attack corners with a variety of moves and next level footwork. He can stutter step, jump cut, hop step. He can juke defenders out of their shoes or leave them looking silly with a dead leg. He can switch gears and burst away from defenders, or he can hit the brakes and adjust to an underthrown ball. He can adjust mid-route to beat double coverage, and he's great at getting open. Metchie is going very underrated. I have always liked him heading into this process, but recently I've been focusing more on the bigger boundary receivers like Alec Pierce, Justin Ross, George Pickens, and Christian Watson. Metchie deserves our attention. He goes 0 to 60 in the blink of an eye. He can stop on a dime. His route running is the best I have seen in this class so far. I've watched a lot of receivers, and they are all a bit different, but have some similarities. I studied a lot of the quick runners with great juking abilities, but none have quite the repertoire that Metchie does when breaking down a corner. It's almost like an art to watch as he eats up the space, hop steps into the defender's bubble, and then bursts away, leaving the defender in his dust. I see a lot of Jerry Jeudy and Stefon Diggs in his game. Metchie isn't the biggest or the fastest receiver, and he is coming off a torn ACL. That being said, I am very, very high on Metchie, and I think he has all the potential to be a number one or a number two option in an NFL offense early in his career. Most Bear fans are overlooking him because he doesn't have the prototypical size that you look for in an X receiver. He did, however, play the X in Nick Saban's offense for the last 3 seasons, and he has been awesome in that role. I could see him being a fit for the Bears, although not a perfect fit, but he might already be a better route runner than Darnell Mooney and Byron Pringle. And they are both great route runners. I'm not taking anything away from either of those guys. That's just how much I love his footwork and polish when running routes. I think giving Fields a jump ball target is a great idea, but if we end up with Metchie, I don't think I'd mind one bit. We still have Cole Kmet, Jesper Horsted, and Ryan Griffin to serve as big-bodied red zone targets. So the importance of having that size in an X isn't a huge deal. Also, drafting Metchie doesn't stop us from still getting a guy like David Bell, Alec Pierce, George Pickens, or Christian Watson. Metchie would be lethal in the slot as well. So he could play the X in 2 wide receiver formations and then move inside on 3 receiver sets to let a bigger bodied guy like David Bell or Romeo Dobbs go to the X. A lot of things can happen. That's my point. If we end up with Metchie, I promise you will end up loving him. Next up is Christian Watson, the 6'4", 200-pound guy with 4.36 speed. He has as much potential as any wide receiver in this entire draft class. Watson is a very explosive athlete, good hands, good height and build, more of a long strider, straight line type speed guy, can take the top off a defense with vertical routes. He's not a polished route runner. He just can't sink his hips and turn like some other athletes in this class. He is good at boxing out defenders and using his body to help him secure catches. He's also adept at finding soft spots in zone coverage and knows how to attack defenders. He has a huge catch radius and can snatch the ball out of the air, but he also has a lot of drops. He has the makings of a player with great hands as that insane jump ball ability, and he can make incredible catches look routine, but he has way more concentration drops than he should. He also let the ball come into his body occasionally, which is a huge no-no for wide receivers, something else he needs to work on. He could be used in a Debo style role, but he needs to add more muscle. He's very elusive for a guy his size, and he has run after the catch ability and is very experienced and dangerous as a return man. You can use him on jet sweeps, screens, and reverses. He isn't the best blocker in the class, but he is physical and he can help a team in this area. Watson definitely fits the Bears quite well. I think he could be our X wide receiver. He has the speed to take the top off a defense and the size and catch radius to be a possession receiver at the next level. Overall, he has as much potential as anyone in the draft, but he has some glaring weaknesses right now that make me not as high on him as I am some other guys. He had 12 drops in the last 2 seasons, and he gets dominated by more physical corners at the line of scrimmage. I can't finish the scouting report without saying my biggest fear of Christian Watson. He reminds me a lot of Kevin White on tape. His route running is good, but not great. He's facing not elite competition, and he's not dominating on a consistent basis. Now take that with a grain of salt, because Kevin White, if he could have stayed healthy, I think he would have been a great player. Nothing about Watson's background says he's an injury risk other than the similar frame he has to Kevin White. But he reminds me of him with his size-speed combo, his frame, his route running, his jump ball ability, and his lack of elite competition and lack of polish as a route runner. Another good comparison in my mind is Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but a much higher vertical. Don't get me wrong, guys. I really like Watson, and I think he fits the Bears very well. That being said, I think there's a little bit too much hype heading his way right now. 6'4" guys that run a sub-4 440s are a hot commodity in the NFL, and someone could overdraft Watson. I think he's more of a wide receiver 4 at first that offers the potential to develop into a number 2 weapon. He brings immediate value to any NFL team as a red zone target, a dangerous return man, and a guy who excels at screens and reverses. So even if it might take him a little more time to develop, I think he's going to be a weapon in the NFL. I think he's just going to need some time to bulk up and refine his route running. He will also need to display much more consistency with his hands. He can make contested catches look easy, but he drops way too many easy catches. That needs to be fixed. I would be excited to add a guy like this to our wide receiver room, but spoiler, before my wide receiver rankings come out, I do not like him as much as I do Alec Pierce or George Pickens. That is my hot take of the day. Please don't think I dislike Watson. He's oozing with potential and could eventually be the best receiver in this class. He just has a sizable amount of question marks, and if a team takes him in the first round, I think it's a reach. Finally, we get to Romeo Doubs, the 6'2", 200-pound wide receiver from Nevada. He did not run a 40, but people project him to run in the 4.5 range. He was a high school quarterback who transitioned to wide receiver and was an instant success. His on-field chemistry with QB Carson Strong was noticeable. His footwork and route running is polished. He has the size and frame you look for in an outside receiver. Although his frame is slightly on the thin side, it's nothing that a season or two in an NFL strength and conditioning program won't fix. He has great hands, rarely dropping the ball or even letting it get close to his body. He's a good blocker, but he did not dominate. His biggest question mark heading to the next level is his speed and athleticism. He didn't run a 40 at the combine, but has the play speed on tape to be an Allen Robinson post-ACL tear type player. Dobbs is physical at the line of scrimmage. He possesses savvy footwork and was a clutch receiver throughout his career at Nevada. He is incredible at contested catches, and that was the skill that really reminded me of A-Rob. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about him, but honestly, I loved what I saw. I think his speed could be a question mark heading into the NFL, but I think he's going to outperform his draft slot. Personally, I think he's a safer pick. Maybe he ends up like a Mohamed Sanu type player in the NFL, but if his speed translates, I think he could be a starting X receiver at the next level. I think his downside, he's a number 4 type backup receiver with solid hands. I think there is a world where, depending on how the draft shakes up, if we ended up with Dobbs, I think he has a shot to compete for the X receiver spot this season. I think personally, if we took Dobbs and Watson, Dobbs would actually challenge him for the starting spot this year. That being said, Watson has tons more upside at the next level, but the upside doesn't always pan out. Thanks for watching, guys. We're close to being done with the wide receiver scouting reports, so I will be dropping tons new content coming soon. Be sure to hit that like button. You are all amazing. If you haven't hit that sub button yet, what are you waiting for? Until next time, guys, bear down.